Hello and a very warm welcome back to the garden. So to continue the celebration of my new book, one of the topics it goes into is self-sufficiency. And I wanted to dive into that today because we all dream of being more self-sufficient from the space that we grow in. But there's always little things that you can do that are going to, over time, propel you closer to those goals that you set. So the definition of self-sufficiency really is for you to decide, but once you've decided what self-sufficiency is and what your goals are, there's one thing that you can do every time that you head up into the garden that is going to get you that extra bit closer, and over time this is going to compound. So if you've heard of marginal gains, this is a fantastic tool that all of us gardeners can use to get us much closer and more quickly to the goals that we've set. So the 1% rule is nice and simple and we can all implement it. Whenever you go into your garden, find one small change. It can be the smallest of changes that you can do that's going to help you reach your goals. And the idea with the 1% is to signify that just something really little, even if it's moving a pot. And I'll show you a load of examples. But what you want to do is every time you go to your garden and you make a little small change, that's going to build up really quickly, and it's going to be something that you're going to notice, and it's going to reward you come summertime. We all know the really famous saying of Rome wasn't built in a day, and I think it's so true when it comes to self-sufficiency. It's about making lots of small wins along the journey and celebrating all of those. And all you need to think to yourself every time you go up into your garden is what is one small thing that you can do to improve it. Right now I'm just cutting back the old growth of this mint plant so I can ensure that there's more space for a nice flourish of mint, which is one of my favourite crops in the whole garden. I also think it's really important that each improvement that you decide to make every time you come up to the garden is something that excites you. There's an example here of, this is calendula that had self-sown, and we've potted this up and it's grown up nicely, and I see this as an investment, as an improvement for the garden, because the amount of pollinators it's going to bring and the amount of colour and joy. And it's really important that we create a space that we also like to be in, because then we have every reason to be at the garden or at the allotment at any given opportunity. So think about what little things could you grow, such as some edible flowers or something that's slightly different, that's actually going to directly help your journey. What I want you to do is get creative and think a little bit outside the box when it comes to making those little improvements, and have it as your time to really try out different things as well. So one of them could be taking cuttings of a particular plant, so you end up with a load of rooted plants by the end of this year that you could then either sell, or you could swap them for other plants or seeds in the future to help save money. You can do other things. For example, if you think of a raised bed and you're perhaps questioning how healthy the soil is, you could bring a load of old plant material from elsewhere, even some grass clippings, and you chop them up, spread it over the top just to start adding some more fertility into the ground. You could do a quick once around your garden, picking up any pots or planks that just happen to be laying about, because those are perfect slug habitats. So if you can just keep it nice and tidy, you're then reducing slug habitat, which is then going to have a knock-on effect of protecting all of your seedlings. Another thing you could do, which is something I did recently, was actually empty out one of the finished compost bins, put all of the finished compost in a large sack ready to use when needed, and then start filling it up again so I can continue and not stop with the process of making as much compost as possible. You could get a bunch of weeds together and maybe a handful of leaf mold or wood chip, stick it in a bucket, pour water over the top, leave it for a couple of months, and then you've got your own free kind of plant fertilizer that you can use, diluting 1 to 20. You could even do something like measuring a length of fencing or boundary just to work out if you could fit perhaps an extra trellis or two there, because thinking about vertical spaces around the boundaries, they're one of the most productive parts of the whole garden. In fact, I think undercover growing is the first most important part of the garden, and the second most important part of the garden is actually the boundary. So spend 5 minutes thinking about how you can better utilize those edges. You could also go around your garden looking for the smallest gaps or the smallest opportunities for you to fill with something to grow. My favorite thing to do is I don't actually plan where I'm going to sow or plant any of my edible flowers or herbs. What I actually do is when I see a little gap, and there's always going to be little gaps, I will fill it with whatever I feel I'm lacking. Perhaps it's dill or nasturtiums or borage. As gardeners, we really have to value our time and also understand that anything we put into the garden is going to bring something back out, whether it's something that we've learned, something in terms of nutrition, or something to help our local wildlife. Anything that you do, and if you set a habit of always making one little improvement that is not on your to-do list to help your garden and to help reach your self-sufficiency goals, it's an investment into the future. And I promise you it will pay off. So just make that habit and see what happens this season.